Hello, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of the Bikes for Death podcast. As always, my name is Patrick, and I'm your host. And on today's episode, my guest is Jerri Sterling. Now, we all have our own paths to cycling and the bikepacking community, and I believe each one is special and unique. However, Jerri's introduction to bikepacking was much different than any I had heard before. Her story is tragic, sad, romantic, inspiring, and real. And it all started when she fell in love with a cyclist named Kyle. When she met Kyle, she wasn't a cyclist. When she married Kyle, she wasn't a cyclist. And when Kyle passed away, she wasn't a cyclist. So what led her to take on the Tour Divide only 7 months after laying her late husband to rest? The answer to that question can only be told in Jerri's words, and they are powerful and they are inspiring. I hope that listeners will be able to internalize at least part of her story. And if you do, I challenge you that the next time you face something really hard, that you face it right back and you don't back down. And I bet what you find is there's a little badass inside of you looking right back at you, ready to get to work. All right, well, before we get to today's episode with Jerri, let's take a moment to thank the people that made today's episode possible, starting with our latest batch of patrons. I'd like to first start off by thanking Tatiana Rogowsky. She had submitted some questions for the Haley Moore interview, and now she's signing up as a patron. So thank you, Tatiana. We also like to welcome Scott Walker, Kyle VanPelt, Morgan Bogdanski, Alison Carrizales, and Drew Carlson. I appreciate you all for signing up so much and supporting the show. In fact, you are going to get to claim instant benefits from your membership because today's episode is being released in two formats. One is going out to the general public, and there is a patron-only version of this podcast that features about 10 to 15 minutes of bonus content. We went on a couple tangents here and there, and I wanted to keep this episode as much about Jerrica and her story. But there was also some good stuff that we cut out, and I thought the patrons might be interested in checking that out. So again, thank you for all the support. And if you would like to also step up to be a sustaining member of the Bikes for Death podcast and support these episodes, you can find out more over at patreon.com/Bikes for Death. Today's episode is also brought to us by Quadlock. You know, bikepacking is not a new concept. People have been adventuring on bikes since they were invented. But the term bikepacking and the amount of people doing it has never been more popular than now. So what do you need to get started? How do you keep things light but still have enough luxuries to survive the trip? With Quadlock Bike Kit, your smartphone becomes your map, your form of communication in emergencies, and sometimes your sanity. Light but secure, you can easily mount your smartphone to your handlebar or stem to view maps on the go or keep in touch on a long journey. So depending on your bike's handlebar setup, you can choose from their stem mount or one of their two out front mounts. The Quadlock case itself is made from impact-absorbing TPU outer shell and a tough polycarbonate core and is compatible with the entire range of mounts made for active lifestyles. Quadlock is the lightest, strongest, and most secure smartphone mount available thanks to their patented Quadlock dual locking system. The Quadlock Bike Kit is safe, secure, and easy way for cyclists to mount their devices onto their bike. The Bike Kit is extremely easy to use. Simply twist, lock, and go. To learn more, head over to quadlockcase.net. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for tuning in today and checking out this incredible episode with Jerri Sterling. I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Maxwell Johnson. He's the person that put her on my radar. He went to go take pictures of a clunker race that she was hosting at Spider Mountain in Texas. And after the event, he called me and was like, dude, I think you need to interview her. She's got a really incredible story. And Indeed, she does. And thank you, Maxwell, for making the connection. And without further ado, let's have Miles Arbor take it away with the Bikes for Death theme song.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You let that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes for death. Bikes for death. Podcast.
I love the show because, kind of like we were talking about before, you have like such a range of people that you talk to, and it's just cool because like I think I'm considered late into getting into riding. I've only been riding for 2 years now, but I'm completely into it, and I think that it kind of makes these people that seem so like, you know, these superheroes seem a little bit more like relatable, and just like to me, they're this whole separate like breed of person, but by like incorporating a show where you talk to them, but then you also talk to, you know, up and coming like new cyclists or people who are starting something new, it just kind of makes it all feel like just more of a community that anyone who's listening that likes to ride can be a part of.
Yeah, we're all doing the same thing,
yes,
right? It's just like at different levels. And so it's relatable on so many levels to so many different people. Totally. We were talking about before we hopped on the mic, or we turned on the mic, that you felt like you had like a little bit of imposter syndrome, like coming into syndrome. What syndrome? How do you say that word? Yeah, like coming into the interview. And I was like, listen, man, you've done more shit than I have. So like, I mean, it's not imposter syndrome because all I do is talk to people about their experiences, right? Like I got into recently some of this media debate coverage stuff. And like, that's been the first time I've ever really like tackled like a topic per se, rather than mostly all I do is get to know the people. And that's really what I love about bikepacking is the diversity of people that are in it. Totally. And everybody's stories are cool. Like we're going to hear your story today. I don't know all of it. I know a little bit of it, and it's sad and it's inspirational. It's very sweet. It's a lot of things. I teared up and got goosebumps researching this one quite a bit. So
thank you.
For me, I am really excited to talk to you, and I'm really grateful that you like made the drive to come to see me. I actually feel guilty. Like you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot of driving, and and you know no one listens to this stupid show, right? So.
That's definitely not true.
So thank you for coming. How was the drive?
Oh, it was easy. I love driving. I think the same way, I mean, it's not the same as like long distance riding your bike, you know, obviously that's a lot different, but there's something to just like the monotony of something where, you know, obviously when you're riding or driving or whatever, you have your like initial like, oh, I got to get this done. I got to get that done. Then that kind of goes, once you go through that in your head, then you go to the next level of like things that are kind of bothering you or that you're thinking about. And then if you do something for long enough, you enter this realm of like thinking about stuff that you would never set aside time to, I don't know, explore, I guess. So I kind of love when I'm not saying I was forced to drive, but I love,
you were about to.
I love like forcing myself into a situation where I'm just like sitting.
Right.
Even if I'm driving or riding. I
actually relate to that. For some reason, I have a natural aptitude towards endurance driving. At 15, because I grew up Mormon, we'd have to go visit the motherland every year. It's a 24-hour drive. And at 15 years old, when I had my learner's permit, my mom hated the way my dad drives. So I started driving our family for 24 hours.
Whoa.
And I call it endurance driving. You know, I can go. And the other thing, like I just drove back from, it was like Arizona or New Mexico, something like that. No, it was Big Bend. Bend.
Yeah.
I think it was like a 9-hour drive. And I didn't turn the radio on, I think once that whole, didn't listen to anything.
Not even a podcast?
No, nothing.
Wow.
I love the freedom and the stillness. And there's also something for me, and this comes in with cycling, or if I'm like going on a long distance drive, where that motion, just that movement, and I think it's because I have ADD, and like just like having motion constantly, like kind of it occupies that part of my mind and allows my mind to like loosen up a little bit, if that makes any sense. So.
Yeah, a lot of times I feel, honestly, you know, people will want like a riding partner or like a driving buddy to help pass time. I'm like, oh no, it's gonna make it so much longer. Like I kind of like that solo time to just like my brain can think what it wants, you know, like not that I don't love people, but
no, I know
there's that element of just being alone in your thoughts that it's kind of rare to have. I think
it's for me, it's like both things. There are times where I want someone there, and there's times that I want to meditate and be alone. Totally. And whether that's in my home or on a bike ride or on a car trip, like sometimes you want to be I mean, that's just me, but sometimes I don't know. I think that kind of me time or alone time is the best time to like think about shit, you know, and like, you know, I don't know. I check in. I'm like, do I like myself still? Like, did you, you know, it's like just kind of like making sure, like checking, just like checking in on myself.
It's so true.
You do that too?
Oh yeah. Yeah. When else during the day are you going to stop what you're doing to consider that, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm fucking busy, so I don't know what other people's lives are. But I don't have. I keep saying this whack-a-mole thing, but I feel like it's just I'm playing whack-a-mole, an endless game of whack-a-mole right now.
Totally.
And I feel like I'm gonna beat it one day. Right now, I'm just playing. It's a really long game.
When you get one mole, like another one appears.
Yeah. Or sometimes 2 or 3 pop up at once. Fucking shitty ass moles. Okay. I don't think you told me, because I interrupted you, it's not your fault, why or when you listen to it. When do you listen to the podcast?
All the time.
Okay.
I don't really have. So talking about a lot of times appreciating that intentional like quietness and alone time, I think that time's special to me because I so often avoid it. So getting ready in the morning, driving, a lot of times in my day-to-day, I have to have like noise. So I'll have a podcast going constantly. Even if I have 2 minutes, I'll have a blip playing for a second. So I think that's why like the times that I'm really intentional about just being quiet and sitting with my thoughts, like it hits hard, but I'm telling you, it's kind of constant.
Okay. Well, again, I can relate to that. I am, unless I'm preparing for my own podcast, which is a lot. So I don't get the luxury of doing this as much as I would like to, but like before I was a podcaster and I got to just consume them all the time. I mean, yeah, if I'm driving somewhere, if I'm doing laundry, I mean, all the time. I'll bring them in the shower sometimes. I mean, like, I and it says, like, I don't know, man. I need that stimulus kind of. But then I do the exact same thing where it's like, I like to just have quiet time to think about it and process maybe that, or sometimes you're barely listening to the podcast. It's like, that's another thing I recognize is sometimes people just want noise in their ears, and they'll find, and maybe this is part of they'll just like find like a voice or like, you know, that's just like comforting or whatever, and they can just like turn it in and they don't have to like focus too hard. But that answers the question of where you and I both listen to our podcast all the time, anytime. That's okay. So how much time do you have today, by the way?
A bajillion hours.
Okay, I'm feeling a little chatty. So.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
I don't know. What are some of your favorite podcasts? Like, what kind of podcasts do you like to listen to? Do you listen to audiobooks too, or just podcasts?
I kind of go through seasons.
That's like 5 questions. Okay.
No, I think I can do it.
Okay.
Sometimes audiobooks. Sometimes. I'm kind of in a podcast phase right now. Honestly, I go through phases in the genre of podcasts too. I went through a crime podcast phase. Those are good, but sometimes I found it was like giving me anxiety and I kind of had to take a step back. One podcast I really like is called Terrible Thanks for Asking, which also sounds kind of like it would give you anxiety, but it doesn't. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I haven't heard of it. It sounds like that's a great title.
In a kind of sad way, but I think what I like about it is that it's relatable, which honestly is why I like your podcast, which is what I said at the beginning. I think the reason I like it is because I've gone through trauma. The whole premise behind it is that like people always are quick to just say, I'm fine. You know, you ask somebody like, how are you doing today? I'm fine. But really, like most people have more layers to that. And like usually fine isn't even like remotely how they're feeling, right? Like, so it kind of dives into like how people are truly feeling, just kind of like what's going on with them. But it's not like you finish listening to it and it's not like they sugarcoat anything or put a silver lining on anything, but you feel okay. And I think it's just because it's relatable and it makes you feel like what you're going through, like other people are experiencing.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I couldn't agree more. It's why I love podcasting and the nuance of people, because like growing up in a very structured and strict religion where I wasn't exposed to like anything, and I got out and I started like expanding my mind and talking to people, and I'm like, oh wait, other people feel like this too, and I'm like, oh, other people like, you know, think about these things in their head when they're driving down the car, and just like I guess we just like to connect with people. We like community. We like to know we belong somewhere, and that's, I mean, I hope by episode 1, I think you're 115. You know, it's obvious that, you know, my goal is to like showcase what just anybody can do, I guess. Like that's the thing though, make it relatable to people. It's not just like, that's why I don't talk about like the gear and what the fucking sickest bike and all this. I mean, you know, a lot of it is about the person. And when you can connect to that person, you can connect to their experience, you know? And that, actually, I've never said that on a podcast before, but I'm glad I said that, because that is like, I mean, that is like the goal. And that is why I don't talk about gear, because anybody can go buy gear and there's great resources for that. And I don't need to be that, but I want to be the guy that connects people.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that for the first time right now, because like driving here, I'm thinking I have no clue like what you're going to ask me or what we're going to talk about.
I don't either.
I have like a rough idea of like what we're going to kind of cover, but specific questions. And I've learned that from listening to your podcast that you don't harp on gear and whatever upgrades to your bike and what exactly are you riding? You know, it's not about that. And I think that's what I really love. And before we had even arranged to do this interview, someone else was doing a quick interview with me at a recent race, and they didn't ask me anything about gear stuff. And I thanked them so much for that. Like, I didn't realize how special that was. Like, connecting about like the spirit of riding and the community that rides, like that's what makes it so wonderful, right? Like, anyways, so I'm glad that you had that little moment, that epiphany, that's something you offer.
I know it, but I think that was the best way I've ever articulated it. You know, like I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly it. I feel like I've fumbled around it before, but I was like, oh, I nailed it.
You did nail it. You have to re-listen and write it down.
I will. Ben, make a note to clip that one out and save it for me. Thank you. All right, we got into some stuff there, but let's get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
Just I am curious though. Are you a native Texan?
No.
Okay, and so tell me about how and why you're in Texas, and also tell me what you do for a living. I think you said you're self-employed or something.
I'm a graphic designer.
Oh, okay.
Self-employed.
We'll come back to that.
Okay. So you want to start with where I'm from?
Yeah. Where are you from and how'd you get here?
Okay. I'm from Florida, Melbourne, Florida. And I kind of roundabout got to Texas. So I went to school in Atlanta. Well, first I went to school in Tallahassee, then Atlanta. In between that, I got married. My husband was military, got stationed in Germany. So we moved to Germany. He got sick while we were in Germany. We moved to Texas because MD Anderson is in Houston.
Okay.
And with him being military, the military had to put us where there's a base, an Air Force base. So they stationed us in San Antonio because it was the closest base to Houston. So that's why I'm in Texas.
Well, it is relevant
to our story.
Yeah.
And we've had the laughing portion of the episode, and now it's time for the crying portion.
Okay, we can laugh again too, though. It's okay.
I think we will. I hope so.
Yeah,
but I do, I mean, obviously for people who don't know you, your husband and your marriage and his death has been and continues to be a very big and important part of your life and your story. Mm-hmm. So tell me about Kyle. Tell me anything you want to, and take as much time as you want.
Whoa. People don't typically ask that.
I'm sorry.
That's cool. Thank you for asking me that.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, take your time. I mean,
that was really cool. Okay. I'm ready. Kyle was a very, very passionate person. I think that would be one of his most defining traits. It showed up in really beautiful, positive ways, and also in just like really intense ways. Just overall, he was intense and passionate, and it was.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, it was.
Passion, it can be good, and it can also get you in trouble. Like I can chase things like without giving it too much thought. I'm just boom.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. When he was interested in something, he completely absorbed himself in it, completely got to know everything about it, wanted to talk all about it, just would obsess over things. Bikes being one of them. He was obsessed.
Did he have ADD?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay. Just curious. Was he like an engineer, kind of? Like what?
He was on the bomb squad.
Oh, yeah. You said he was in the military.
In the military, yeah. But his...
Sorry, I'm trying to paint this picture. Keep going. I'm listening.
His brain could figure anything out, though. Definitely the smartest person I've ever met.
Loves the puzzle.
Yeah.
Loves a challenge.
Yeah. Completely. Definitely challenged me in a really good way. Like, I always wanted to be better and cooler and more capable, basically a better version of myself, just because he was so amazing in so many different ways. He was like super, I don't know, this has like a negative connotation sometimes when people say it, but he was like an alpha male in a lot of ways. And I think some people roll their eyes at that. What?
Oh, no. I mean, I guess I was thinking, I just said on, I don't know if you listened to the Sophie On episode.
Yeah.
So that story that I told at the beginning about my redneck friend.
Yeah.
And like these judgments and stereotypes. And I mean, I'm really against them. I hate stereotypes, like all of them, I think, just in general as a rule, because we're all so nuanced and we're all our own people, and all of these crazy experiences shape us. Anyway.
Yeah. No.
But I didn't come up with like a negative connotation.
Okay, I appreciate that, because I don't mean it. It was like something I loved about him,
Yeah.
But he was like such an alpha male in some ways. Like any physical challenge he can take on, no problem. Like so strong and capable, but also so creative and so, I don't know, just like appreciated very stereotypically feminine things, and was really supportive in me being a strong woman. And it was just, he had so many different, he wasn't a stereotype, I guess. Like that was what I loved about him, was like, you couldn't just categorize him as anything.
I love that. I love it. I'm attracted to interesting people.
Yeah.
Like people who like are almost a puzzle in themselves. Like, wait, you don't make you don't make sense.
Totally.
You're more than I thought you were, or,
Yeah.
There's like layers. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, those are, I think those are my favorite things.
How did cycling play a role in y'all's relationship?
Funny. So I despised bicycles and he loved them. And it's just so funny sitting here now, because I love bicycles, right? But early on, when we were in college, we met in college, we started living together, and he became obsessed with riding. And he started collecting old bike parts and frames, and we had a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, and they filled up our whole entire apartment, and I resented them, and I was just like, how is this bike that much different from that bike?
You were that person.
I was that
in
person.
that relationship that we see memes about.
Yes, and now I think I have 13 bikes in my garage.
Damn.
I know. I always joke like,
man, when that cycling bug gets you, it gets you.
It does, and it's so funny because I always say I'm the wife that he always wanted. Like finally. You
gotta appreciate the humor.
I know, it's so true.
Or irony,
it's so true. Like so many of his t-shirts have bikes on them. Like, and I just like kind of didn't get it, and I think I sort of resented them because, like I said, they just took over our whole apartment and all of his money.
He was obsessed with them, and it was just like, we get that way. Yeah, I'm definitely on his side.
I know.
You came around.
Now I'm on his side too, but at the time, no. But anyways, we super not into it. Like he had built me this 80-something Schwinn rigid bike, like didn't fit me, just like Frankensteined it together.
Like a clunker, or
it wasn't like technically a clunker, but
it was more like a
vintage,
street, like a like for right on the roads.
Yeah, but he put like the as knobby of tires as he could on them, and then tried to take me on a mountain bike ride, and I was like, this is the most miserable thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Okay, I do have to offer a critique for Kyle here, because if you're trying to introduce something to someone new, like make it easy on him.
I know.
Like don't put him on the worst bike possible.
I think
so. He might have had a little to do with that.
But he was also new to it as well, and like learning. But he was loving it, and as he was learning about it, and I was like, I'm just following your lead, and I don't even want to be getting into this right now, and this is uncomfortable. But anyways, so then, just because I'm stubborn, he like signed up for a 100-mile bike like fundraiser ride, and I was like, well, I want to do it, and so we bought a tandem and did it on that. And then the whole time everyone was saying that I wasn't doing anything, and he was just pulling me on the tandem, which really is a way to piss me off. But so that was like one.
Pissed me off too.
That was pretty much our only together bike adventure.
That was your only together bike adventure?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Curveball.
I know.
Okay. I think I want to pick that up in a little bit.
Okay.
How did he pass away? And when? Yeah.
So in 2018, we found out he had cancer. So it was like Thanksgiving time the year before that. We were in Germany. He started getting pain in his lower abdomen. We had gone rock climbing the day before, and we assumed that he just did something and pulled a muscle or something, because it was like a muscular feeling. It wasn't going away, and the pain wasn't. It was kind of getting worse. So he started going to his doctor, who was kind of like, it was a military doctor. So there's definitely like a formula they have to follow in terms of ordering any imaging and stuff like that. So
you're telling me the government moves slowly?
Oh, I mean, you know what? That's one way to say it. For sure. But, you're constipated, all this kind of stuff. And he's like, look, I'm definitely not. So it wasn't until you could see that there was a lump coming out of his stomach that they finally ordered an MRI. Yeah. So MRI happened, I think it was end of December. You have a huge tumor. 2 weeks later, surgery. By the time they removed it, it had grown by like 2 centimeters. So it was 9 centimeters by 14 centimeters.
Where was it located?
It was attached to his abdominal wall.
Oh, is it abdominal wall? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say my dad passed away from pancreatic cancer, and so when you were like describing some of that stuff, it was extremely similar to my dad's experience. Yeah.
Totally. Sarcoma is weird because there's so many subtypes, and they all kind of act in different ways, but they're all still categorized as sarcoma. But we were in Germany, he got it removed. We basically used Google Translate to figure out that he had cancer, because we got like the documents based off of the pathology and stuff from the tumor and the surgery. And so we were like, we're pretty sure this is what it's saying. It was confirmed. It ended up being confirmed that it was cancer. And then it was kind of like, well, crap, now what do we do? And everything's sort of a blur, but it was really fast moving to move us from Germany for a year to Texas while he got treatment. We left our cats, we left all of our stuff in Germany. We had a house there, like our whole life, and we just lived out of
because
suitcases.
of the urgency of care that was needed.
Yeah. So the surgery happened. At the time, it was no evidence of disease. They thought they got everything, which I think they did. He went through chemo and radiation, and still like, okay. By the end of that, like no evidence of disease. I'm making it sound like there was so much that happened during that time. Like chemo kept getting delayed. If you're not healthy enough, they don't let you do the next round of chemo. So there's all sorts of, it was horrible.
Like horrible stuff, essentially. Lots of horrible, terrible stuff.
Yeah.
No bad, very bad. They're no good, very bad things.
Yeah. Basically one after another, only bad. But okay, we finished the regimen. We are good to go back to Germany. We go back. And we go back in October, I think. His first checkup scan is December of that year. So they do it every 3 months. And it aligned with Christmas. So we're like, okay, we'll just come home for Christmas, get a scan, go back. And first scan, it had come back and it was in his lungs. So it had spread.
And how much time had passed?
Only 3 months since he finished treatment.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it hadn't even been a year since he was diagnosed, and it had returned and spread. So it was aggressive. And meanwhile, we're getting all this testing done. They can't figure out even what type of sarcoma it is. So even though I think it's like 150 subtypes of sarcoma, like his didn't fall under any of them. So he had an unclassified one.
Oh, wow.
So it was just like,
so they didn't even know really how to treat it or
totally
anything.
not. Yeah.
So what, did they give him a prognosis? Did they continue to treat him?
They continued. Yeah. So then we get stuck. So we are there thinking we're going to be there for 2 weeks. So that's all we have is 2 weeks worth of stuff for Christmas. End up getting stuck there. Our cats are stuck overseas again. But this time we know we're not going back. So like, anyways, the military had to move all of our stuff for us. Like people had to fly from Germany with our cats. It was a nightmare, but he went through, I mean, there were things to try. There was like different pills. He did, I think, 3 different clinical trials. We got other opinions in New York. We've tried all sorts of diets and incense and whatever, supplements. And the last thing he was doing was an immunotherapy that didn't do anything. So we never, not once did we get good news. Every single scan showed something worse. Every single one. So they never gave us a prognosis.
They were just trying to figure it out the whole time because they didn't know what it was. It's totally. Like pancreatic cancer. They were like, you got 6 months. You know, they knew, and they were right. They were right.
Really? Yeah.
So that is, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
That may be inappropriate for
this
podcast, but anyway, I've always felt grateful that like I had that 6 months because I had the time to use that time to heal, like kind of like start the healing process and like, like just know it's coming. I mean, I have a friend that like was going to lunch with his dad and like on the way, like they were in separate cars and his dad died on the way there. And like, you know, he never got to say goodbye. He never got to like have any kind of closure or know that it was coming. Do you feel a little bit like robbed of that, or do you feel like you were able to gain some like closure for yourself along the process?
A little of both. Like in so many ways, I'm grateful. Like I was always in denial, but Kyle, I always knew what was happening. He could feel it. Like he was so strong and capable, like I had said before. And like when his body was failing him, he was hyper aware of it. Like he can tell things started being really like, I can tell things are wrong. So he would try to start, it was just like the most like amazing thing, but he would like, his focus became on if I was going to be okay in his last, I would say maybe like 6 months, like when he knew for sure.
Yeah.
And he would have talks with me. He tried to help me figure out like budgeting stuff. Like he left me letters that were like, when the pets die, read this letter. Like, if you have anxiety, read this letter.
Wow.
Yeah. Like
what a special man.
Yeah, totally. It's like, you do all these things to make me okay. Like, I'm doing quotes right now, like that you're gone, but like that just shows how great you are, and it makes me more sad. So stop, you know.
That's so true.
Right?
Oh my gosh. I never would have thought about that. It's so, I'm sorry. I'm throwing some tangents in here, but
No,
I've thought about like leaving audio messages like when I pass, like to my kids, and like having them available. But yeah, that could be like a torturous memory.
No, you should do it.
Okay, I should do that.
I think you should do it. It's been like a real big blessing for sure.
Has it?
Yeah.
So what's your current relationship with his death? Like, how does that relationship continue? I have a better, actually, I wrote this down. Hold on.
Okay.
You posted this on Instagram.
Oh no.
There are always reminders of what is gone, but I've been trying to focus on the gifts that Kyle has left behind. I've lost a version of myself. My sweet love lit a spark that set my soul on fire. Sorry, it's hard to... because of Kyle, this version of me will be okay. I teared up the first time. I got goosebumps. Same thing. So how has that fire that was lit, how does that fire manifest itself in your life? Yeah, I thought about that one.
Wow. Wow, that was a while ago, wasn't it?
I don't know. I just scroll. I was like, oh, that was interesting.
Yeah. So
I just took a screenshot too. I don't even have the post, so I can't tell you what it was. I'm sorry.
No, it's
I'm
okay.
not trying. I realized I was like, I'm not trying to be coy. I just don't know.
No. I think that was might have been when I did the Great Divide.
Okay.
And I only bring up the Great Divide right now as an example of this. I said he had so much passion, like, for everything, and he left that with me for sure. And I just think so much about how so many times people go through life without that passion, and life is so fleeting. And I just think it's so important to try to live really big as often as you can, and in as many ways as you can. And I don't know. I mean, I don't say this like pat myself on the back. I've always been like ambitious, but it's been more of like in a career space or like something,
yes,
you know, but I have this like bigger motivation now that he's gone and I've experienced his loss, that I just want to take on these challenges that are like, that expose me to different types of people and show me what different types of life look like, and like push me to my own personal just like boundaries outside of what a job is. You know, it just completely reframed what life looks like to me. And I always have these moments, like it's kind of happening right now, where I'm like, if he had not died, I would not be doing whatever it is I'm doing right now. And what a gift that is. So even without him here, I'm like, look what he's giving me, right? So, but that's taken time, and that's like takes a lot of focus to think of it in that way, because it's also really easy to resent the fact. I mean, a lot of times I resent the fact that he's gone, or I am bitter about it. But I think like one of the most, I guess, healing and healthy ways I can look at situations is to think like to feel good that I'm living. I was sparked by him to live in this big way, and I'm making sure that my life is different because his life had to be gone.
Excellent answer.
Oh, thanks.
Nailed it.
Oh, wow.
Nailed it.
Okay, that was a big question, so I'm glad.
Well, you posed the question, and you kind of like opened the door to that question in your Instagram. Don't put it out there, people. I'll find it.
Yeah, you'll find it.
So he passed away in January of 2022 or 2020.
2020, yeah. So it was almost 2 years almost to the day.
I have a similar like process that I went through with my own dad's passing, and one like very simple takeaway was to start saying yes more, like saying yes to life, and it was exactly that same thing. Like, and life wasn't money, and it wasn't cool cars because I thought it was like all these things before. And when you realize the value of life, when you realize like how precious it is, and I think that like you can only gain that insight like I mean, at least for me, I'm not empathic enough or anything, but for me, that was like, dude, you've got to live this life.
Yeah.
And if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here right now. Like I have completely shifted my life. I'm a completely different person.
Yeah.
He passed away 12 years ago. I'm you wouldn't recognize me on almost any level, and that was a gift of him passing away. Totally. And yeah, I don't know. So that's what I wanted to say.
But you had to have your like heart, I guess, open to it being a gift, right? Like I think a lot of people also can close up and not receive that potential change. I mean, people don't like change, right? Obviously, this isn't a change that I liked, but like there's nothing I could do about it. Right. So the best you can do is like allow yourself to develop and change
for the good.
Yeah. Because you're going to be affected for the bad inevitably by it, right? Absolutely.
I mean, as humans, we have to kind of like look on the bright side of things, or else we're just going to be miserable in our own skin. And it doesn't do any honor to, Kyle or my dad or anybody. Totally. It is very appropriate to mourn and to miss and to like, just miss out on those feelings and those experiences and have those thoughts. But, we also honor them by continuing to live and doing something really amazing with our lives and not settling, and that's a spark. That is a spark, and it wouldn't have been there probably
totally
if it wasn't for that,
I do kind of want, just in the spirit of transparency, like
oh shit,
anything could happen right now. I'm not just like fine.
Good.
And
just that
like,
out there.
Yeah, I just want to be honest. Like, I just started therapy. I've gone 3 times. Like, I'm new to therapy because I think early on, especially because Kyle was so worried about if I was going to be okay, like in his death, I was like, well, I owe it to him to be okay then, right? So I was like, for him being okay, trying to convince myself that I was okay. But I was still in shock. Then COVID hit 3 months later. I didn't know how my life was actually different, like versus what's COVID and what's going on, and then I left and did the Great Divide. And then I'm distracting myself like crazy. I don't know what life actually looks like now. I just passed the 2-year mark of him being gone. And now I'm seeing like how my life is actually different and what navigating different relationships actually feels like, and what patterns do I fall into now, and like what are my triggers, and I have PTSD, come to find out, like from that experience. So it's not like, it's something that I have to actively remind myself to like recenter and try to redirect, I don't know. I just have to recenter sometimes, and also allow myself to feel the negatives, right? And feel the sadness, because you're lying to yourself if you're only seeing the good in what's going on,
I texted that to my friend earlier today.
Really?
I said, when we're not honest with ourselves about our own shortcomings, we're doing ourselves and everybody else around us a disservice.
Yeah.
Because then we're not giving grace to other people for their shortcomings, and like, you have to address those things. And I appreciate your willingness and honesty to do that, because like we do have a tendency as people to say everything is fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. And that's why I asked when he passed away. I knew the answer, but you are still in the process of grieving. I mean, this was not very long ago. I mean, I got divorced about the same time you, I think, went on the Tour Divide. And I'm still I was texting my friend about some of those wounds.
Yeah,
that's one of the
totally.
things we were talking about. Like, we are people. We the things that happen in our lives affect us, And like, you are a person in a relationship with a man that you loved, and you had a life, and you had goals and dreams and all these things. And now you have to figure out who you are,
Yes.
without that. And it sounds like, I'm going to take an assumption here. It sounds like maybe you've been keeping yourself busy and distracted, and now you're like starting to settle into, okay, but who am I?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still distracting myself big time.
Well, yeah, you got to do both. You got to have balance in life,
I know. I am definitely keeping myself very busy, but I do think that it's like I'm being more intentional and thinking like, okay, I'm really into bikes right now. Is that because Kyle was really into bikes, or do I truly love them now? The answer is both, but that's okay. Like everyone's introduced to everything some way, But yeah.
All right. Have we done a good job talking about Kyle, you think?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I think so. I think I have a pretty good picture. I'd like to talk about your Tour Divide.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if I understand, he passed away in January of 2020, and by like July, you were on the Tour Divide route.
Yeah, so
How the hell did that happen?
I know, right? I didn't even have a bike.
Okay, yeah. So lead me in. Like, what happened?
Yeah. Okay. So we were talking about, in knowing that your person's gonna die or whatever, the lead up to kind of prepping, the preparation, right? One of the good things about that was we were able to talk about how he wanted his ashes spread. And I am just like giving him all these awesome options. And I'm like, oh, I'll go to every single national park or and he's just like, no.
You gotta like climb to the top of the most beautiful waterfall in the world and like jump off and like swan dive with his ashes.
like you're not even far off. That's awesome. And he's like, nah. And finally, we watched I Just Want to Ride. Lael's. That's it, right? I Just Want to Ride.
It's one of them.
Yeah,
That's definitely a Lael one. Yeah.
Well, we watched that. He had already seen it like 5 billion times, but when he was sick, he wanted to watch it again. And he was like, that's what I want you to do. Because that was a goal of his. He had started collecting bags and stuff to do the Tour Divide. Started getting some bike bags, had a setup, like a bike that was appropriate for it. Doesn't fit me, but the bike bags work. But so he was like, that's how I want you to spread my ashes. And I want you to do it by yourself. So that's what happens. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm getting to work.
What kind of state of mind was he in at the time? Was this like, like, did you piss him off once and he was like, I'm just gonna leave her with one little I got you? Like, what was that?
No,
where do you think that came from? Was he trying to introduce you to cycling? Like, what?
You know what? That could have been like the secret little,
right?
Yeah, maybe. But
I don't know him. I'm just
no, maybe partly, but I think it's so crazy because I think that he knew without maybe truly knowing that it was going to be a way for me to prove that I could do hard stuff alone. Because we met when I was 19 and he died when he was 27 and I was 26. So I didn't know who I was. Like, I never had to be an adult by myself.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We got married super young. Like, I don't know. So I think that in his brain, he was like, this is just going to like throw you into it like hard, right? Like being alone and overcoming some stuff. And
learning how to rely on yourself.
Yes.
Doing hard things.
Yes. Yeah.
Powerful.
That was completely what he wanted, for sure.
Do you know that? Did he express that to you, or he would
just be like, I think you would love it and I think you can do it. Like, that's kind of all he would say. Yeah. But as it was happening, I was like, this is why. I was having these moments of like, okay.
Okay. So what were your fears, thoughts? I mean, he's passed away. Now you have his ashes and you have his mandate or his request.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts and fears at that time?
It's funny because for 2 years, right? Like I was his caretaker. Like I quit. I had a job in an advertising agency. I had to quit in Germany. I had to quit it. Like became full-time his caretaker. Like, and with him dying, like I just still craved, like although that sounds horrible because I wouldn't want him to like rely on me, but I wanted to keep being able to do stuff for him. So I took the funeral really seriously, and that became a thing. And then it kind of felt like fulfilling this wish to spread his ashes was like the last thing I could do for him. So it was like nothing else became a fear. Like I was not of course my mom's like, oh my gosh, the animals and the people and the weather and the whatever, you know, like everyone's
normal mom stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. But none of that was a thing to me. Like I was only concerned that I wasn't going to be able to do the thing Kyle asked. There wasn't a specific thing that made me nervous. It was just like the act of not being able, for some reason, for it to finish.
Was doing it in sections an option?
So technically what ended up happening was I did it in 2. Okay. Because, which I have to tell you, that like destroyed my heart bad.
Okay. Well, this is one of the questions. So we can get into it now. I do want to know, you know, essentially, because it looks like you were solo self-supported, and it looks like also maybe there was like a RV there or something.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. No. So I was completely self-supported.
Okay.
I
just saw one picture where there was an RV in the background.
At the very end, okay. I had people that would show up to like see me in different cities, but I wouldn't ride during that time. I would just hang out with them, and then they would leave, and then I would keep going.
Oh, like you're on your journey, and people would like hang out with you and stuff. But like you were on a solo journey.
I wouldn't I had friends that wanted to ride with me. I had people who wanted to drive alongside me, and I let his mom, I think 2 different days or 2 different times, like meet me from one city, because I was like, I gotta keep moving. So she would like meet me at one town, and then I would see her for dinner or wherever, like if I could make it to the next one. But that was as supported as it got, and it happened a total of maybe 3 days or something. And then at the end, my sister picked me up like in New Mexico. Her and her husband picked me up in a van, and they got there like 2 days before I finished. So that was
yeah, that's awesome. It's obvious that doing it by yourself was part of what you needed maybe out of the process.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I was like really insistent on that.
Did you ever listen to the Hal Russell episode?
Yes.
He would not ride with anyone on the Tour de Vie very often, because he would always talk about he's out there to bury his Vietnam ghost. I
have this like big time soft spot in my heart for him. I think that I just like understand his relationship to riding like so much. In a way, I mean, I'm sure I know that a lot of people love and respect him. I'm not saying my appreciation's on any other level, but I'm just saying like not everyone understands why sometimes that solo experience after a trauma, I was so fresh, like months after Kyle died with his ashes strapped to my bike.
Yes.
Like it was important for me to be there with Kyle, you know, and not making small talk with somebody else and not stopping. Like there were days that I just saw a flower that I liked and I would sit for 2 hours and look at it. You know, like it took me forever to get through it, but I wanted to, you know, I wanted it to be like that.
Yeah. You were there. You were intentional. You had a different purpose. It had nothing to do with going fast or anything like that.
Yeah.
Circling back. So, I mean, what were your fears? Like how did you train for this? Like, how did you, take me through that and all the way up to like, maybe, you know, how prepared you were feeling like on day one, like, you know?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because I don't know your cycling history. So I don't know. Yeah. So, well, that's what I kind of learned by going in this. I didn't really know your cycling history at all. So, I mean, this began your journey of like, you know how mind-blowing that you're like talking about imposter syndrome and you're like go from 0 to the greatest off-road mountain bike route in the world.
Yeah, I guess so.
Pretty epic shit.
Yeah.
And you're like an emotional wreck at the time. You're like emotionally fragile and, you know, you got your husband's ashes stashed on your bike. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just like blown away.
I mean, it's funny because you're I know you don't mean it in this way, but you're saying it like I'm emotionally fragile as though it's like something that I beat the odds because I was emotionally fragile. But my emotional state is what made me freaking get through it. Like it motivated me.
Yes, you needed that.
Yeah, I needed
that.
it.
Was that fire.
Yeah, it was the fire. Big time.
That was the motivation. I mean, all that. Interesting.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like for you? I mean, on a personal, emotional level, like what were those days like? What was it like to be alone with his memories and with his ashes?
Thankfully, I journaled a lot, and I kind of started recently going back through it, and I was like, whoa, like I don't even remember thinking these things, right? And so I'm really glad that I did that. But there were so many moments, kind of like I touched on earlier, where I would like come around a corner or something, and I would see a beautiful mountain or something, because like you're going through winding trees or something like that, and then you turn, so you don't really see anything beyond the trees, and then you have this opening and it's like a beautiful like landscape, and I would just start sobbing because it would feel like it's one of those gifts, right? Like I'm in this moment right now. I would have never been seeing this mountain right now. Like he just sent me this mountain. Like that's what it felt like. Yeah. Like what a big gift, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because I remember writing like I'm alone, but I haven't been lonely. Like I'm technically solo right now, but I don't feel alone.
That's exactly what Hal said. He says, I'm out here by myself, but I'm not alone. My ghosts are with me.
Yes. That almost makes me want to
It's in his book. Yeah.
I need to read that. I wrote that down after I listened to your episode. But yeah, I don't know. It's very weird. I felt actually less lonely. I feel more lonely in my day-to-day, like busy, however bajillion people live in San Antonio, like hustle and bustle. Everyone's doing a million things. I'm around a million people all the time. I feel more lonely in that situation than I did when I was out there. Actually, I also was on antidepressants and weaned myself off of them on the ride. Like I started like the week ahead of time because it's a process to get off of them.
Yeah, I'm on an SSRI. Yeah, I've taken one for a long time for anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had tried before to get off and was bad, so I got back on, and I was able to come off of them on that ride, and I haven't been back on them.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a big breakthrough,
yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
I'm not brave enough to try that. Maybe I'll go do the Tour Divide.
I know.
Maybe that's a recipe.
My family was like, are you sure like you should do that when you're alone in the middle of nowhere?
I mean,
like,
you're messing with your psychology a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're carrying your husband's ashes on you still. So yeah, it seemed like if I was in your life, in your circle of friends, I would probably, as a friend, advise you not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's your life, but I think knowing what I know about how those drugs impact your body, and especially coming off of them, I know people who, anyway, but it's not, it can be ugly.
Totally. But I don't know. I was just being on them. I just knew that they numbed me a lot, and not only was I not feeling like depressed, I mean, obviously I was depressed, but not that like totally out of control upset. I also wasn't feeling ever that happy. And I was like, this is a big deal experience. Even if I ever did the Great Divide again, right? Like this is the one time I'm spreading his ashes in his memory. It's my only first time doing it, right? So I was like, I need to feel everything that I am supposed to feel right now, whether it sucks or whether it's great. I need to feel it. So it was really important to me to get off of them.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I have a different relationship with SSRIs, but that's for a different podcast.
Yeah.
How did you pick the spots? Did he pre-designate places?
No.
All right. So how did you pick the spots? I'm really
they would just like hit me. Either I would be like, this is rad, this is beautiful, like this is one of those gifts, whatever. Or it would be like, I just crossed into a new state, or I just had a really shitty, scary night, or like sometimes it was like, this was horrible, but I got through it. So I would spread ashes there. Just anything that felt like a big deal moment, which happened a lot and randomly.
How much ashes do they give you?
So many, and I still have so many more.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out away. I'm like, Kyle, you didn't. Do I do all of them on that? Do I do it again? But I'm trying to figure out maybe ways to get maybe friends and family to be able to do some along the route. But anyways, it's a lot. So I had a little feed bag on my handlebars that I had Ziploc baggies with them in there. That's only a tiny fraction of how many ashes there are total. And then like whenever people would come see me, I would arrange for them to like bring me more because they're freaking heavy.
Yeah. Well, that was actually one of my questions. Like, how much were you carrying? Where were you carrying? You answered that one. And how much did it weigh? Like, but it sounds like they were bringing them to you, so you were like kind of keeping the weight down.
Yeah. It was like maybe
it's such a weird topic. I just got a cramp. Okay.
It is kind of weird, I guess, but like I don't mind talking about it. It is the reality of it. Yeah. I mean, there were some kind of funny moments. I had to make sure they didn't get wet, right? There's also like residue that would like there would still be powder in the bag, so I'm like I would hold on to the bags until I could find a stream where I could like thoroughly wash them out because I felt bad even throwing the bags away. Like I was pretty mental about it. There were moments where I'd be like overlooking something beautiful and I would throw them out and then the wind would blow and they would smack me in the face, like what you see in movies.
That's a kiss.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't think about it like yeah. They became a thing. But I did document all the coordinates of all the spots.
You are good. You're like answering all my questions.
Really?
I don't even have to ask them. Yeah. I'm curious, were they pre-designated or did you feel it and then mark it?
Yeah.
Did you write in your journal?
Yeah, that's kind of how it went. I felt it and marked it. Yeah.
What does that feel like to do that? Is it like therapeutic? Is it? I bet. How many times did you spread his ashes over the 2,500-ish miles?
That's a good question. Probably like 30 or 40 times.
So you probably had a range and a variety of experiences.
Yeah.
I would assume.
Yeah. Yeah. Any
other memorable ones besides him smacking you in the face with a kiss?
Well, so there was a day that my one time getting I got pretty lucky in terms of riding in bad weather. I had nights with bad weather, but my first day, or I was able to like see that the bad weather was coming, so I was like, I'm not about to. I'll just post up in Steamboat Springs or something like until it passes. Why not, right?
I do.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to like this,
Yeah. As much as I can enjoy this process, I would like to.
Yeah, because also like things are gonna suck. Like things are gonna feel uncomfortable. They're not. I shouldn't say suck, but things are gonna feel uncomfortable.
It'll be hard.
Inevitably. So like my experience wasn't to. I mean, I already was pushing myself and challenging myself, but it wasn't to like race it or anything like that. It was like to feel connected to Kyle, and if I'm trudging along in the rain and don't feel like I can stop when I want or whatever, I'm missing out on that. Or feel like I can't spread his ashes or whatever, like I'm missing out on that. So it wasn't, I would try to avoid it, but there was one day, there were a lot of fires happening. So there was a reroute. It was leaving Steamboat Springs. And I can't remember the name of the road, but it was going over Rabbit Ears Pass. And it starts to get kind of stormy. And it's not even part of like the official route. Like it's a reroute because of a fire that was happening. And I make this video and I'm like, oh, about to ride in the rain. Here I go. Like have to make sure I keep his ashes dry, like protect my electronics and stuff. I'm like trudging along. It's kind of an annoying climb. Get to the top. Like I'm like 30 feet from the top. Lightning hits. And I get the ground current from the lightning.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I bet you felt that.
I felt it. Yeah, I felt. Yeah, I felt it.
Jesus, that would scare the shit out of me.
It really, really did. I still a little bit get like my heart gets all poundy, you know, like when I'm out in the weather. It definitely affected me. I ended up having to go to the ER. A car was like coming up behind me on the pass and saw it, and they were like pulled over and like, get in the car. Like that looked like it went through your body, and I was like, it didn't go through my body, but like I feel it. My fingers were purple, like my lips were purple.
Wait, was your hair always red?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Knew it.
I had like reflective glasses, and they had like black like crinkle, like it had burned the reflective like material on the glasses. It's pretty scary. They had to like do all these heart tests and stuff like that. And the doctor was like, if you weren't on your bike, like your life was saved because you were on the bike. And I was like,
because of rubber on the tires?
Yeah, because the tires. So I went back. Kyle, my husband's mom, she like came to see me. I think it like aligned with 4th of July or something. I don't remember what weekend it was, to be honest with you, but she came to visit me, and I was not far from that spot at that point. So she was like, let's go back and like see if we could see where it hit. And so we went back and we were like trying to figure out exactly like if it was the ground or like this tree. But anyways, I spread ashes there.
Okay.
So that's another good spot.
Well, you almost died there.
I know, so it seemed like
I mean, she might have been almost like taking both your ashes back to that spot.
I know, right?
It's like, all right, was it grandma or was his mom? You said
it was his mom.
His mom. So yeah, then the burden would go to her, and she'd have to continue the journey. Yeah. You know.
I know. It was pretty funny because like afterwards, I promise you, I'm not making this up. For like 2 weeks, I could feel because I continued riding, and whenever it would like get stormy and getting into New Mexico, it's just like so many storms. I've never seen so many thunderstorms. It's pretty scary, especially after that just happened. So I would be able to tell, like I could feel it in my fingers or like my toes that they would start tingling whenever, and I swear to you, within like 30 minutes, a big storm would come.
That was just getting off SSRIs.
Yeah, right?
I don't know. I'm just fucking with
like,
you.
This is the worst superpower to get from lightning. It's like tingly fingers. Are you kidding me?
Or riding your bike 2,500 miles. I can't feel shit. It's got to be hard to know. It's like, I mean, you're experiencing something so foreign, you know, to your body, your mind, everything. It's got to be hard to know, like, you're like, is this normal? Am I supposed to feel like this?
Totally. You did ask me about training.
Dang, you were like really good. Yeah, that's what I wanted to circle back to.
Really?
Yeah.
So I live in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Kyle died January. His funeral we did in March. Like it was like a week before COVID. Like everything shut down for COVID. I got a bike in March and started riding in August, I think, of 2020. Yeah, August, which is late. Especially if you're going to take your sweet time. So anyway, so between March and August, I would just put rocks in my bike bags and ride around the flat sidewalks of San Antonio, which does not train you. Like
shit.
It doesn't. There's
no elevation, no hills. I actually know the trails. My best friend, shout out Ryan. He lives in San Antonio.
Okay.
And whenever I have a free weekend, I go there very frequently. I like going there because of those trails, because I can like go hang out with him, and there's the trails and you can just like, I can pop off and go ride wherever I want to. We have no infrastructure like that here. The infrastructure here is horrendous. And so it's nice to just be able to like hop on and go ride and not worry about cars and everything else. But does it train you for the Tour de
It doesn't.
Not even a little bit.
That was the only training I had.
How many miles were you putting in?
The furthest I would go, I think the furthest I ever went was like 30 miles.
No, I should have laughed. I'm in shock. I'm in shock.
Yeah.
Okay, so this goes back to my original question is like, what was in your mind? Like, how much research did you do to be like, were you scared? Like, what?
I was like working. I was like, this is easy. Like 30 miles. This felt like nothing. I could do that a second time. It's fine, you know? And then I would like work out. I would do squats and like lift weights a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, I'm good, I think. No, man, you're not good.
What other kind of like, you know, before cycling, before this, were you active? Were you working out? Were you doing other things where you already had like an established fitness level?
Yeah.
Okay. So you had some confidence with your fitness, maybe.
Yeah, I've always prioritized working out. Yeah. So I don't know.
That's interesting though, honestly, you know, just people like, you know, listening, it's like the average person, like we were saying. I mean, not to call you average, but I'm talking about what the distinction I'm trying to make is between somebody who has the time or money or whatever to train all the time and that's all they do versus, you know, people who are burying their husband and having to work and like also like train and like, you know, you do stuff anyway.
Yeah,
but it's
totally. Which I don't want to
impressive.
discredit the people that are freaking crushing it, like do a huge day. Like it's the Tour Divide is what you make it, right? Like if you look at it as I just am going to go 30 miles a day, which I went longer than that. But if you want, you can do 30 miles a day and make it eventually, right? Or you can do 100-mile days and make it faster, right? Like, so you can do it. Just look at it as, if you have the right motivation and you have the time, just look at it as like a bunch of little daily rides, you know?
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I thought your story was interesting because I'm all about showcasing the different ways to experience the outdoors, the different opportunities that it provides people on so many different levels. Some people make a living doing it. Some people need it for, you know, to spread their husband's ashes. Some people, you know, some people are chasing their Vietnam ghost. And those are the important things to get out there, those perspectives, those that opens up other people's ideas in their minds to wanting to go and unlock the outdoors in their own way. You know, that's like, hopefully that's why I think, you know, stories like yours are important and you're not an imposter.
Oh, thanks. I will say like my lack of training really fucked me early on.
Well, before you answer that one, what was your thought? Like, were you afraid going in? Were you nervous? Were you like, oh, I think I can do this?
I remember talking to Kyle's brother, my brother-in-law, Dylan. I'm super, super close with him. He likes riding, so that was helpful because he kind of helped me like figure out what bike to even get and stuff. But I remember we had this conversation and he was like, I just know with you that not doing it is not even an option. Like not finishing it is just not even an option.
You're too stubborn.
Yeah, I am so stubborn. So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to make it happen. I don't care how long it is. I work for myself. I don't want to work at all right now. Anyways, I am taking a break. I need to figure my shit out. And Kyle wanted me to do this so no one can say anything about it.
Boom.
Boom.
No, I mean, I agree. It's like I said earlier, there is a time and a place to be selfish and to take care of yourself.
Totally.
And we need to be okay with that. And we need to like allow ourselves the opportunity to do that. And that's what you were doing. Yeah. You're like, I'm checking out, checking into me. I'm doing what I got to fucking do.
Yeah. So as like oblivious as it probably was for me to be like, I'll be fine. I also, there was like no reason I was going to not do it. I just knew I was going to make it happen. So I kind of just, I mean, I didn't, obviously you don't know, but with everything I had, I was going to make it happen. So
what kind of like research, like in terms of like even the gear, like how concerned with you were with all that stuff and how prepared were you in that way going in? There's two ways to learn, before or during.
Yeah. So, I mean, I actually did like read there's like a couple books of people who had done it and just how they broke up each day. And like they're online, you can find people's packing lists and there's YouTube videos. And that's pretty much like what I did, was just kind of dove into it.
There's podcasts about bikepacking that don't fucking talk about gear. Don't help you at all.
Yeah. So of course, you know, I'm like trying to kind of figure out what to pack. And you know, it's funny because some people like swear by certain items, like, oh, if you're only gonna bring 2 things, like make sure it's these 2 things, and everybody has a different opinion about it. So I way overpacked at first. My bike was like way too heavy. I like, it was as if I assumed I would never see water again, and I had to have enough water to make it the whole way. I had a ridiculous amount of water on my bike. When I started, I had a freaking whole bag of bagels tied to my bike. I had like shoe covers. Like what?
They work for like 10 minutes.
Like, why did I do? So anyways, I ended up quickly just like dumping stuff. And then along the way, I would get to towns and I would just send boxes home. Just like, I don't need this shit. Like the way my bike looked day one and the way it looked later on is like completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. You were learning. I mean, no matter how much research you do at home, you are gonna only learn by actually doing it. What do I actually need? What doesn't work? What work? All that stuff.
Totally.
So yeah, you went in, you planned.
Yeah, I did.
You put in the work. You knew what you were getting yourself into. You knew there would be bears and
yeah.
I mean, I've talked to people who have gone in with
I knew
very
there were
little
animals.
research.
I knew it was outside.
Yeah. I've been outside before.
I've been outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Here's what I will say. If I would have had any mechanical issue, I would not have known how to fix it.
Oh God, we'd be all fucked. All of us.
Yeah. Like if I got a flat, I don't even think I would have known how to fix it at the time.
Oh wow, that
like,
deep,
nothing.
Huh? That deep? Were you running like the tubeless with the stuff?
Yeah, I had tubeless, but I had a spare.
The thing. Go ahead.
That was it. I had a spare. a spare tube.
I was just gonna say. I mean, wheels and tires and stuff, and all that sealant is really damn good. I don't know. I can't remember the last time I needed to use a tube, and I should probably like replace the one on my bike because it's been there so long. It's probably dry rotted at this point.
I know, yeah.
But they're pretty good. You can ride the whole Tour Divide and not have a flat.
You've heard it here, folks.
And bikes are good too. Like I don't fucking do hardly anything to my bike.
I mean, I was pretty good about taking it into shops anytime I can to be like, make sure we're good, because if I'm not good, I won't know how to fix it.
You should. I mean, it's on the route.
Yeah, 100%.
Get it dialed. You're living on it. It's your vehicle.
This is my house, okay?
Like let's make sure does it need brake pads? Does it need brake lines? Does it? I mean, you're not worried about you don't want to worry about that.
Yeah, I did have a period where my limit screws were messed up and my chain kept falling off, like over and over and over again on a climb, and I was getting very frustrated. That was like the worst of it, really. Yeah.
So, speaking of the worst of it, you said that your lack of training fucked you, or
yeah.
How'd it go?
So early on, I think it was like day 2, I started getting horrible knee pains. Horrible. My IT band on one of my knees was so inflamed. It got to the point where I couldn't bend or straighten my leg. It was just like locked in this like sort of bent position. And being stubborn and being like, okay, I'm 2 days into this thing that I'm not gonna not do. I was like pedaling with one. I would push so hard with my right foot, and I freaking would just pedal with one leg for a while, like a week. And I would get into like a town and see if I could find a physical therapist to help me. And I worked with physical therapists a few times. I ended up finding
en route.
Yeah.
You found a few physical therapists?
Well, I found one in Montana.
What an adventure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I found one in Montana, but then somebody connected me with one that was in Vegas that we would FaceTime, and he would give me exercises and stuff to do. It was ridiculous.
What? Did they give you any explanation to why your leg was locking up like that?
I think that I just had not put it under that stress before.
Yeah.
And then I went for it. Like day 1, I think I did like 65 miles and like 4,000 feet of climbing on my first day ever. Like,
that's okay. And you were overloaded. You said.
Yeah.
this is the thing, man. I hear it so often. Whether it's a race or even it's those first moments you're so excited you go out too hard.
Yeah.
Whether it's the beginning of a race or whatever. And anyway, so that's what happened.
Yeah, it really screwed me. I had to work with this physical therapist. That slowed me for the beginning of the ride for sure.
Frustrating. Was it frustrating? Were you frustrated?
Yeah. I was like in tears. It was the most pathetic thing. It got to the point then, of course, my right leg that I'm using the whole time starts hurting.
Exactly.
And it got to like where both legs just hurt so bad. I would have to get off my bike by just kind of purposefully like falling onto the ground because I couldn't support like my weight with either leg. That's how like bad my legs were.
Yeah,
and I was like
time.
week 1, right? I'm like, wow, I really fucked myself on this. What am I doing? Like one time I was trying to cross a side, like I got into a town and I was trying to go across a crosswalk with my bike and I was using it, like holding all of my weight in my arms trying to cross this crosswalk. And I just fell in the middle of the road. I couldn't keep myself up. Like my knees were jacked. I had to take a couple weeks off.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I picked back up like where I left off, but I just chilled. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're not racing.
No.
And you kind of need your body.
Yeah, I was like, well, right now I'm focused on my knees and I want to be focused on what's around me.
So how did you feel when you got back on? You took a couple of weeks off.
Yeah.
Did you go slower at the beginning?
I just had to do but then I would stop I had to stop every hour and do like knee maintenance stuff. Anti-swelling exercises
that they gave you and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of like anti-inflammatories and all sorts of stuff.
So that's going to slow you down no matter what.
Yeah.
How many miles a day were you doing at that point?
Early on, I also had like the completely like wrong tires. They were like really fat and slow and like anyway, I changed out my setup halfway through, which really helped. But early on, I think I was going after that shitty long, right? 65 miles. People are like, that's not long. But I was going maybe like...
Y'all don't shame her for going 65 miles.
That was day 1. Okay. I didn't know. But 40 to 55 miles probably a day at first. And then by the middle of it, I was going like 70. One day I did 140 miles in one day.
That's good.
But usually it was like 70-ish miles a day.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, you trained in San Antonio. The furthest you rode was 30 miles. Yeah. First day on the Tour Divide with a fully loaded bike.
Yeah.
You did 65.
Yeah.
You know, for you coming into it, that's a big day. I mean,
yeah, it was a big day.
70 miles a day is a big day. 140 miles when you're how many, weeks into it, you're like, wait a second, I'm getting stronger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's got to feel good to know that what started not great.
Yeah.
You were able to hang in there. And I mean, 140 miles, that's a big day.
Yeah. I felt pretty proud of myself. A lot of people, just because they love me and were concerned for me, there were a lot of moments where there was reasons why I should probably stop, but it's just not an option for me. But I had people like, Kyle wouldn't want you, if you're in pain, to keep riding, or he would understand or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm freaking doing this thing. Like Kyle was in pain, right? Like, and he had no choice, I can freaking do this. So, and I was like, I'm in pain, but I'm like in the most beautiful place I've ever seen. I can handle it. So
it's a good perspective.
Yeah.
I like it. Easy one. Maybe not an easy one. Easier than some of mine. What was your favorite and least favorite part of the Tour Divide?
That is not easy.
Oh, okay, good. When I told you it was going to be easy on the internet, that was a lie.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what a least favorite part would be, and that's really hard because,
It wasn't the time when you were one-legging it for...
No, maybe that was, but
you fell down in a crosswalk because you were so jacked?
But the thing is, that was the point, right? It was supposed to be...
Oh, it's supposed to be hard.
It was supposed to be hard.
You wanted to feel something.
Yeah. So I appreciate all of it. So,
wow.
Which I know kind of is like a cop out of an answer, sort of, maybe.
No, it's a great answer.
Okay, good. Well, I really mean it. I don't know. I would say an ending. That was the worst part, was when it was over.
And a better answer.
Or I'll say this. Maybe when things were outside of my control, but also still a learning experience, still part of it. But like things outside of my control would make me have to reroute. Or for example, like the weather, the snow, that made me have to do it in 2 parts. So I got through Wyoming just about. I was almost finished with Wyoming, and it was the middle of October. And that is like no longer summer, right? In like Colorado. So a friend of mine in Wyoming was like, do you realize like the passes are covered in snow already in Colorado? Like at the like you can't go, you can't.
Right. It's not possible.
Yeah. And it's not safe. It doesn't make sense.
Ask Sophie on. I don't know if you heard that
Yeah,
episode.
I did,
I mean,
and you know,
not a good idea.
And that makes me, and I know that it's like completely different, like reasons that we're riding and stuff, but to hear other people like justify, like it didn't make sense. I just had to like have peace with letting this go, or with it not being in the way that I envisioned it.
That's part of the growth of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it does pain me still, because I'm like, when people are like, how long did it take you? And I'm like, well, technically I did it in 2 parts because I picked it back up once the snow was over, you know.
It doesn't matter. You know, through hikers do that all the time. I mean, these are long efforts, and sometimes you just have to break them up, you know. But I don't think it, I don't know. And it's your experience, and you can have whatever relationship you want to with it. But for me, I'm like, I don't know. It was a different thing, you know.
Yeah.
Like you did what you could and needed to do. So maybe a better question is, what was the most challenging part of the Tour Divide? Because it sounds like you had some challenges.
Yeah. I think
I actually like that you take the time to think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
People don't do that enough, and I don't do that enough. You know, it's just so you just want to like jump in.
Yeah.
But if you can like, you know, like take a minute and think, and like, I don't know, it's a good approach. Go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry.
I appreciate that, because there is a little, like, you're making me feel comfortable and like it's not rushed, but there's like a natural inclination to want to answer.
You want to know. You want to know the answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We always want to know the fucking answer. We want to be the person. I know, teacher. I know.
Totally. I would say there definitely reaches a point where you are exhausted, whether you like it or not, right? And so because you're physically exhausted, your mental gets a little bit exhausted as well, obviously. Like you get it, sometimes it's harder to stay in the mindset that you're trying to tell yourself to stay in, and to like roll with the punches as easily. It kind of gets to a point when, you know, I had sort of a lot of, the longer you're on an adventure, the more opportunity to have some like ridiculous run-ins, right? So like I had sort of a lot of things that it kind of got to the point where people were like, it's not even surprising anymore that this crap is happening right now.
Like scary or dangerous stuff?
Yeah, some kind of like pretty sketchy stuff.
Involving people or animals?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
Like, yeah, there was one really scary time with a guy in a place in Montana.
Yeah.
There was a sketchy guy. It kind of became like the town effort to like get me out of there safely. It was bad because I started so late in the season that it was after, like, everyone was like, you're the last person of the season. Like, no one's riding this late.
Yeah.
So
even people on the trail were cautioning you.
Yeah, like the people
strangers.
of the towns and stuff. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, you obviously made the right decision.
Yeah.
You didn't have any other decision. You really didn't. You know, your stubbornness thought that maybe you did, but you really didn't. Based on what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So I think when you say like the most challenging part, I think it would be to like when you overcome so much, which was the point, right? Like every day you're overcoming some hardship to some level because you're pushing yourself every day. But like when there's those like little added just bad weather, sketchy guy, like a bear, whatever, like anything, you kind of get to the point where it's like, am I just being stupid for still doing that? Like, do I need to stop? Is this the universe telling me like that you should probably not be doing this? Or it's hard to keep, when you're beat down and exhausted, like sometimes it is hard to keep your mental in the right spot, for sure.
The way you said that was really good, like
Thank you.
all those factors that you're having to consider.
Yeah.
That's what bikepacking is, and plus you were also, I feel like I keep saying it, but you know what you were doing. You were burying his ashes all over the place.
Yeah, totally.
It is a very, I don't know anyone who's done that, and as a bike packer, but warning, if I ever get married, or no, I'm never getting married, but we're not getting into this. This is not happening.
What do we need to talk about here? What? Do you want to talk about something?
Oh my gosh, we could talk. My list of things to talk about is endless. It is kind of unfair. I just sit here and like ask people, like I'm asking you some actually pretty personal things, and you haven't cried yet, which is impressive. I've got people to cry for way less.
No, I think I just talk about it so much. Like I think it's healthy too, so it doesn't. Obviously it's sad and it affects me, but I'm used to it. And
talking about it, I would think helps.
Yeah, totally.
I think so.
I get more worried if other people feel weird than like I don't feel weird. It doesn't make. I'm sad about it, but it doesn't make me sad to talk about it. I'm always thinking about it, so to be able to talk about it is like nice. But when I just don't want to make anyone feel bad.
Well, you work out ideas when you talk to people the way I did whenever I was like, earlier when I was like, oh, that was good. It's like that wouldn't have happened if we weren't just sitting here talking,
Totally.
Talking allows you the opportunity to like work through things. And I mentioned this on that episode, but it's really the core of why I got into podcasting, is because I really value what conversations offer people, human beings. And all podcast, like we can take our experiences, you and I right here, and we can share it all over the world, and anybody can connect with it or take value or inspiration from it. It's just there. I like that idea, and it just happens to be I'm a fucking bike nerd that loves bike packing. And so this is just the people I want to talk to. Like these are the people, these are the stories that I want to hear about, like what motivated you or inspired you to go do one of the most challenging things that a human person can do, and what was that experience like? And that leads me to my next question. What is the greatest lesson that you took away from your experience on the Tour Divide?
Okay, I think I have two things that I learned. We've already touched on one of them, like the whole concept of kind of trying to view experience as like a gift, right? That wouldn't be happening if I hadn't gone through loss. Like just learning to put myself in that mindset, that started happening on the Great Divide. So I don't know if I would have ever really started getting into that habit if I hadn't gone on that.
Because you were experiencing so many gifts, like you talked about, like you're like, this view is so a gift. So it kind of like led to that.
Totally.
I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm trying to like fill in the blanks.
Yeah, exactly. Like I turn a corner and this is such, it's raining, but look how pretty it is. Or like I'm freezing cold, but I'm like surrounded by flowers or whatever. Like
amazing emotional strength, like no mental, like and emotional strength. Yeah. To have, that's the hard thing to do, is to be in hard places and hard situations and be like, no, I can still see the beauty.
Yes.
I can still appreciate this.
Yes. That's one of the bigger things that I learned. And the other one is just like rolling with the punches. Obviously, like with Kyle getting sick, you had to learn that things are outside of your control, right? Like everything was out of our control. But I don't know. There was something about being on the ride and thinking like it's just me, right? It's only me. There's no other, in my brain I'm thinking there's no other factor but what I make of this, right? But there still is. There's always something that could happen. I can't control that there's a random creepy guy like trying to get me in his van. I can't control that.
You didn't have to say van. You could have said vehicle.
Yeah, you do have a van.
Yeah, I'm sensitive.
He had a van too. It was a coincidence. But you can't control if it rains or that it snowed early or whatever. And I can't control that I couldn't take the the official route and that I had to get detoured. That bothered me in the moment, and I felt like I was cheating because I wasn't on the route that people race, because I had to detour because of a fire. Like, it messed with my head so bad, but I had to really learn and accept, like, shit's out of your control, right? And sometimes
a lot of it.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe because I got detoured, like, maybe I saw something that I wouldn't have seen, or maybe I avoided something that I would have ran into if I didn't.
We like to think we know a lot more and have a lot more control over a lot of things than we actually do, you know?
No control, zero.
Yeah, we don't, you know, we are reacting a lot to things that are happening. And I think it's a wise perspective. What is your motivation now? You just did a clunker race. You just did some other 100 miles in Florida thing. I feel like you maybe aren't done. I don't know, but so that Tour Divide experience ended, and then what happened?
I couldn't get off my bike.
Oh, good answer. Yeah. Okay.
Which bike I'm on now varies very much. My favorite, like, my heart is definitely with bikepacking still, even though that's like the Great Divide is probably like the only true bikepacking experience I have still. It's only been 2 years, like, since I've started even looking at bicycles at all. Not even, I guess 2 years. But I mean, I mountain bike as a hobby. That kind of just is easy to do locally. But I think that what I love about riding of any kind the most, like, the act of riding is great, but what I love about it the most is, like, the healing properties that it has. It is so good for your body as long as your knees aren't jacked up. It's so good for your body physically, but also you talk about it all the time, like the mental just like healing that it can do is crazy. But I've also learned that you can use it as a tool to almost give back, like, externally as well. So, like, and I didn't realize that I was doing this, but, like, I used riding to give to Kyle, right? And then I just co-hosted this clunker race, and it was a memorial for him too. It was, like, inspired by Kyle, but it was a fundraiser for a local foster house. Like, we donated to their sports program. But yeah, it was, like, important to me that it was, like, not just a way for me to make money. Like, it was, like, a way for me to give. And then,
so just to fill in a little blank here, like, after you finished the Tour Divide, were other people inspired by what you did, and things, like, someone presented you with this idea, or was this clunker idea something that you're like, no, I want to keep doing this, but I want to give back. I want to honor him, but I also want to figure out a way to pay back, you know? Yeah.
So I had no friends in San Antonio when I finished the Divide. My sister and her husband were living with me right after Kyle died. They moved away, had to start their lives separate from me. I didn't really know anyone. The first group of people I got to know were local mountain bikers, and they completely showed me a sense of community. Like, I just got so addicted to that feeling. So most of them race. So I started going to local races and just supporting them. I don't have any interest in racing. Like, I think I've probably made it pretty clear that, like, that's not my priority on a bike. Even though everyone tries, I feel a lot of pressure to race. Everyone wants me to, but that's not where I'm. It's not my zone. It's not what I want out of it.
I don't feel, that's weird, because I don't feel any pressure. I don't like racing.
Really?
I host a race.
Yeah.
I don't ever get any shit about that.
Oh, I get shit constantly.
Really? From who?
Don't make me say.
No. I just, not like who specifically. Is it just like random people?
I'm gonna start naming people.
Is it just like random people on the internet?
No. Like my friends.
Oh, so it's like your friends that are like, okay, well, that's the difference. I don't have friends. I have social media. It's a different thing.
No, mostly my friends, but it's definitely like, I kind of feel like there's a little bit of a, if you don't race mountain bikes, do you even mountain bike?
Oh, and you're speaking directly to mountain biking.
Directly to mountain biking, which is like how I usually spend my time on a bike is mountain biking,
well,
like in my day to day.
I mean, in Texas, especially in a very urban, I know for a fact you have to drive like close to 50 minutes an hour to get out to like gravel roads and some like hills. In town, all you have is paved path and single track. So you're pretty much mountain biking. It's just what you do. And I totally get it now. I came into bikepacking through mountain biking. Definitely got caught up in like the race scene because it is a very core part of that culture. I mean, it's why the bikes are designed the way they are. It's the branding. I'm not knocking it. That's just part of what mountain biking culture currently is. And I don't remember exactly where I was going with that, but I stepped away into bikepacking, and I have the racing aspect of it isn't. Well, I'm not there to go fast. There's always something more important to me. Same. Like looking at a flower, I take pictures of them, but you got to prioritize for me. And I don't even like to ride with too much structure. Whenever I leave my house or whatever, I just throw whatever, some shit on a bike, and I just start riding, and I just see how I feel, and I just go wherever I want to go.
Totally.
Like I don't like the aspect. I went in the complete opposite amount of biking because that pressure, I would get anxiety around like doing races, and I wasn't having fun. It sucked the fun out of it. And so now it's for me. I'm just trying to have fun, man. Yeah, I'm trying to enjoy it.
I'm glad you're saying this stuff because I'm about to bring it all back up. Like basically what you're saying.
Your turn.
So I don't race, but I'm like pretty involved. Just I go to all the races. I love to. My friends are so into it, so I just want to support them. And I was wanting to do some sort of like foundation. So Kyle always wanted to adopt a kid, but that obviously did not happen. So he had like a soft spot for like foster kids and kids that needed adopting. I wanted to do some sort of like foundation or something like in his name that can be like an annual thing, or I don't know, just like a fundraising platform. And it just occurred to me that I should do something clunkers related, which I will explain why. So Kyle was obsessed with clunkers, like big time. When I was saying like in college, our apartment was full of bikes. They were like old vintage steel bikes, like frames and parts.
Describe what a clunker is.
Well, what a clunker... Okay. The clunkers were the original mountain bikes. It was basically in the late 70s was like the first time... I mean, people rode bikes fast down hills, but it was the first time anyone timed having like a steel bike with like sort of knobby tires going down like a dirt path. So the way we categorized it was like coaster brakes. Cool. They eventually, like, it didn't take long for them to start transitioning away from coaster brakes, and they were still considered clunkers. Yeah. But for the sake of just sticking to the roots of it, we categorized it as having coaster brakes and a fully rigid bike, so no suspension or anything.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, which was like so much fun to do. But Kyle was obsessed with clunkers. He had like the Fat Tire Flyer book that Charlie Kelly wrote. He could tell you the history of mountain biking, like every detail. Like when I said he was really passionate, that's telling you.
So that was a really easy segue into that idea, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was such a cool idea. I mean, Thanks. Such a cool event. You have no idea. My buddy Maxwell that introduced me to you.
Yeah.
He told me he was going, and I was headed out of town. Actually, I think I was going to San Antonio. Actually, I know I was going to San Antonio.
Oh no.
Yeah. But I was just hanging out with my buddy, and I was like, man, I need a weekend. Anyway, I wish I had the FOMO is what I'm trying to say. I had the FOMO, and I will be there. Will there be a next year? Please?
Yeah, there will be. I think it's going to get bigger and badder. Let me tell you that.
That's what I'm talking about. Bigger and badder.
Yeah, bigger and badder.
Yeah, and more.
And more. Yeah. I can kind of tell you some ideas for that. But so I want to say, like, the way that it kind of happened was I was kind of brainstorming like, oh, I think I should do a clunker race. I don't really know what it would look like, but it's something I'm going to start thinking about. There's a race organizer, Team Trail Party. The guy who runs it is Jeremiah Work. Amazing human. He just heard about my idea and that I wanted to do it to memorialize Kyle and that I wanted to donate the proceeds. He approached me at the end of one of his races and was like, I heard about your idea. I want to make it happen. I want it to be in the way that Kyle would like it. I don't want any money from it. I want the proceeds to go to where you want it. Like, let's do it. And so I'm like, okay, whoa. So
put it out there.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. So I put together like a proposal of like what I envisioned it looking like, just so he like knew how serious I was going to be about it. And he was like, this looks awesome. I'm thinking we're going to work it into like the fall race series or like 2023. And I think it was like February. He's like, okay, we have a date, April. So I'm like,
holy shit.
Oh my God. So we went into like game mode, right? So we had to get everything. It was a lot of work. I had to like not take actual work projects on for a bit to kind of make it happen.
Have some relation to that. I can only imagine.
Yeah. So that's the origin of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just go all in. But I mean, when given an opportunity like that, what are you going to do?
Totally.
Say no?
Yeah.
And be like, hey, if you're in, I'm in, like, let's make this shit happen.
Totally.
And, from a fan of cycling and the history of the sport, I really appreciated how like authentic it was, right? Like these are real clunkers, coaster brakes, rigid.
Yeah.
The, people on the bikes are dressed the right way, We didn't talk about where it's hosted and probably the significance of that.
Yeah. So Spider Mountain is in Burnett, Texas. It's a bike park. And it's a really popular bike venue, downhill venue here in Texas. And I'm going to say, I think it's the most popular, but that could just be me making that up. I don't know.
In Texas?
True. Yeah.
Oh, it's definitely in Texas.
You think so? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think so.
But we don't have that many.
I think it's the only bike park, but in terms of, there's other places people like to ride, but I think it's the most popular.
Oh, I've been out of the mountain bike scene. Like I don't go mountain biking hardly at all.
Yeah.
So I really don't. Yeah, I just don't know. Bikepacking takes up too much time. Like,
it does take up time.
It's like what I'm like, okay, this is my niche, and there's a lot going on, and so it's not that I hate mountain bikers or anything. I just there's so much I don't get to see because I'm just always doing my own anyway.
Yeah. Well, so what was cool though is we did it on the fire road. Like like you said, we were trying to make it really authentic. That was really important to me. So like all the marketing was like 70s kind of retro themed, and we like put out a request for people to like come in costume, I guess, like dressed retro.
Yeah, right.
So we did like a spirit award, but it was funny because people interpreted that in their own ways. Like we had one girl dressed like Evel Knievel, like we had people that looked like they were straight out of the 70s, and then some people who were just like goofy in little booty, like zebra booty shorts. Like it was really silly.
So we need to plug Maxwell's photos because that's what turned me on to you. First of all, I'm a huge fan of Maxwell's work.
Yeah.
He and of Maxwell as a person. He's awesome. I love you, Maxwell.
Those photos look like they were taken. Like, you can't tell them apart from the photos from the 70s.
No, they're so authentic.
They're so good.
The dirt is flying. The costumes are on point.
It's so good.
The art of his photography, I thought, was like, because of the way, I don't know, they look, even like the costumes, even ones that like weren't authentic to maybe the 70s. It's like, no, we're partying on a bike. We're getting wild on a bike. We're getting on, weird, shitty bikes and going down gnarly shit. You know, it's like, and that's what it all, I was like, fuck, that's when I was like, God damn it, I should have been there.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I have to say, like, I was hoping, I thought it was going to be fun, and I was hoping it would be cool and a big deal, but I have to give such a shout out to like more than just Texas bike scene came out, but the Texas bike scene, they freaking rock. Like, people totally were like, okay, yeah, we're gonna do this. Like, I knew no one that had a bike that worked for this race, that qualified as a clunker. Like, people started building clunkers, going on group clunker rides leading up to it. Like, people organized like group costumes. So there was like a whole series of people with like flannels and like boxes of beer strapped to the back of their bike.
I saw, yeah, that was great.
Like, so creative. I mean, some people like were goofy with it and got like little kid like coaster brake bikes, like little girl with like baskets on the front.
Yeah.
But whatever, like, people really embraced it in a way that like they did not have to do. I learned that most mountain bikers don't know anything about the history of mountain biking. They don't really care. It's something they don't think about.
Yeah.
They could have just brushed it off, but they embraced it and made it a good time, big time.
I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I host my own, I've like created routes and I have my own race and stuff. And I've been blown away by the response from the community, how bought in they are, like how invested, how like their energy, their positivity. I'm just like, that's one of the greatest moments of my life is like, I've only done it twice, but it's left an impression on me. It's like, you feel like you're giving, I don't know, you're receiving so much, so much like, I don't know, energy, like all these things I'm talking about. But the reason, part of that, I think, is because we're kind of starved for events here in Texas, like especially like alternative type events, like we have very structured and there's, those are great communities and we have like great mountain bike communities and organizations. And I've been into all those and there's a lot of great cycling that does happen in Texas. But what we don't have is very many of those like alternative type events that we do see around. And so, man, I tell you, if you build it in Texas, they will come. Maxwell's been building routes in Texas and they're so well received, like there's good stuff. I've ragged on Texas so much, but there is a lot of good stuff.
I know, me too. And now I'm like eating my words. I'm like, dang, these people really show up.
Yeah. And people come from out of state and they're like, man, this is nice. Like, Texas can be a little boring scenically and like it gets hot and stuff. But I'm just talking about from like, people and interacting with people and stuff. They're like, wow, this is nice. Y'all are like nice here. It's like, what?
They're just so supportive. I was so grateful. We also like, I had Charlie Kelly come out. I don't know if,
it sounds familiar, but you'll have to.
So Charlie Kelly is considered one of the 4 founding fathers of mountain biking.
Okay.
So he hosted the first ever mountain bike race. Like him and Gary Fisher built the first ever mountain bikes. Like the whole concept of them, like the first, instead of like a brand, they were just branded as like mountain bikes, like because they didn't even exist yet. So then then things blew up and now there's a million different types of mountain bikes and stuff.
No, I know the story. I didn't put the name there, but the brand was mountain bike.
Yeah. That was the brand was mountain bike.
Before it was a category.
Yes, exactly. So he was one of the 4 founding fathers of it. I think he's pretty much credited with like hosting the first race. Like he was the guy who timed it and everything. But so he came out and bringing that energy into, so I reached out to him originally because just going back, like I had wanted it to be really authentic. So I reached out and was like, look, I'm doing this clunker thing. Do you mind if I just like send you stuff while I prep to make sure I'm staying like consistent with where the routes were, and I just want to make sure everything aligns. And I said, and meanwhile, he's like 77. I have no idea if he's even going to read my email. And I'm like, but also like, I'll buy you a ticket if you want to come watch.
Yeah.
So he got back to me like pretty immediately and was like,
you didn't have anything going on?
Yeah. He's like, I'm interested. And he was like, by the way, I'm a good speaker. And I was like, oh shit. Okay.
Whoa.
Like what's happening? So he like came and he spoke a little bit and he announced like the winners of the clunker race and he signed so much, like he signed shirts, we got a couple clunkers from State Bicycle Company. They donated a few to raffle off and which was amazing. And so Charlie signed those and it was pretty amazing.
It sounds incredible. Like I mean, a truly incredible event from, the riders, the community and that's, I mean, I've been the benefactor of some of this is, the cycling community will really like back you up,
They will,
and like, and I'm extending that to companies and I think you said the guy that had the bike shop that helped you and,
totally.
Charlie Kelly, who, I mean, I don't know where he lives, but
he's in California.
He's in California. Goddamn dude flew from California at 77, offering his time to lend to your experience and your event.
Yeah.
What?
I know. It's crazy.
And that's what's been bothering me about all this shit talking that's been going on the internet, is because I've always felt like this community was better than that,
Same. Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I feel like on so many levels we do so well. And I think we'll get this one. I think we got it. But
I think it'll go. Yeah.
I think we got it. Did you have anything else to say about the clunker? I want to know real quick, like, are you going to do another one? You kind of paused. Do you think that
yeah. So the only
No, you didn't. You said it's going to be bigger and badder.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so here's where I'm at. I haven't officially had a meeting with Jeremiah from Team Trail Party. So I am a little, I don't think he will care if I'm just dreaming right now with
podcast.
You. Yeah.
Hey, Jeremiah, I'm asking you as a friend.
Is it cool if we do this?
I'll sign something.
I'm thinking, so a few things. I'm pretty sure it could and should exist as a weekend experience. There's so much that could be happening around it. We did a one-time race down the fire road, like a one time down the fire road, and that was like the extent of it. I mean, we had clunker booths and people signing stuff and like a merch tent and stuff, but we could do different race lines. I think we could do like skidding competitions because that's like big and clunking because with the coaster brakes.
Oh yeah,
you're
speaking my language.
Yeah, you're skidding.
I'm going.
Yeah, so I think
I'm already building a clunker in my head while you're talking.
You
like
are.
I'm planning my outfit. Like it's going down.
So
I am so into this. Like racing does not appeal to me.
Mm-hmm.
You like this?
Yeah,
is my fucking jam.
Yes.
I want in.
Well, you know what I love about this? It was technically a race, right? Like technically, like
yes.
We timed people.
Yeah.
But the feedback I have gotten since that race, which I really hope it doesn't seem like I'm putting down other racing experiences, but
so.
Was that it was their favorite race they've ever been to. And it was part of like Team Trail Party. So Team Trail Party was hosting a downhill series. It was a 3-part downhill series. And we just added like the clunker division as like an extension of that race. So people were there for the downhill race anyways. So it was part of like the normal race, but the only thing that was different was was the clunker experience. And people said it was their favorite race they've ever been to. They've said like they had been getting burnt out on racing. And that this made it fun, and like when is it going to be next year, and all of that. And I think that what's so fun about it is when you go back to being on a clunker right. We were talking about everything's all about the gear, and like there's always a faster and more efficient part, right? Or like carbon fiber, everything like electric shifting, like all of that. Like there's always like a cooler, faster mountain biking thing. When you're on clunkers with coaster brakes and no suspension, everyone kind of goes back to like an even playing field, and it kind of just like makes you focus on like the spirit of just like dicking around with your friends, to be honest. And then throwing in the spirit award aspect. People were just like, instead of being against each other, they started like working together on being creative with their outfits, like looking for parts to build clunkers. Like it just kind of was like a little bit refreshing. I think people didn't realize they needed, I think this is something people needed that they didn't realize they needed. Just like a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it exactly. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And also thank you for like giving that gift to our community, It's pretty, I mean, I'm excited. I'm glad that you're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I definitely have people on board. Like Charlie is like, I'm passing the torch.
Oh, it's gonna happen
to you. Like, keep it alive. And I'm like, oh God, like this is so stressful. But there's connections with like the Marin Museum of Bikes in California that kind of has like all the history of mountain biking laid out. There's some cool networking that could be had to make it kind of a fun experience. And then I've had a few people from other states ask if I could bring it to them. So there's so many options, but I don't know where it's going.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. Let me we'll like talk business later. I want to give you all my money. No, I'm kidding. How do I get in at the ground floor of this like groundbreaking opportunity? Congratulations, for real. I want to circle back to a little bit earlier in the conversation when we were talking about, where you're at now. And, so you've done these 2 events. What's next for you? I mean, like in your own like personal journey.
I don't know.
Great answer. You're like, I'm just trying to figure my shit out, man.
Help me. I don't know. I think that the clunker thing took off in a way that I didn't expect. So that's like a potential little door that's gonna be a part of my future for sure. I just don't know the extent of it. I'm gonna stay on my bike. I keep on signing up for stuff. Like I just finished this it was from Baltimore to the Florida Keys, like relay style bike ride. And that was a fundraiser for young adults with cancer. So I think that like what I'm really drawn to is, I like ride mountain bikes in my, as a hobby, but I like always need something on my agenda where I'm doing something like really powerful through the bike. So
have those carrots, those nuggets.
Yeah. So I need to, I don't have anything that I'm signed up for right now. Bike ride, like bike related.
You just got off one.
I just got off one.
You just start seeing a therapist.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe she'll tell you where to go, or she or he or she.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. That's why I'm going to a therapist, is because I don't know what I'm doing. Okay?
Good answer. I think more people should have that perspective. Everybody's always like too quick to say they know everything or have like so many facts about X, Y, or Z, and I'm just like, no, you don't.
And the reality is, like, so much of what's happened in everyone's life is stuff that you couldn't plan for. Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of rolling with it,
I'm definitely rolling with it. I mean, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, who's steering this fucking ship? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is all I do. And I'm just like, okay, well, I'll just roll with it.
Yeah.
And I just keep rolling with it. And I don't know. It just doesn't stop, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's life. Yeah. That's riding the Tour de Vie. You just keep whatever it is. And working on yourself is it's just an ongoing process. Like, I've given up all these grandiose ideas I had when I was 15 about this perfect. I don't know. I don't think I was having those grand ideas, but you have this like idea. You're like, oh, I don't know. My life is going to be this way, and I'm going to be this way, and I'm going to have these values. At least that's kind of stuff I would think about. I'd write them down, and I now realize life is messy. Life is unpredictable. Life is short.
Yeah.
And life is big. Life is big. There's a lot of amazing experience and opportunities that is out there for everybody. And it doesn't matter what level that you're accessing them by or through. Just get out there and ride your damn bike,
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
This is crazy. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you again to Jerri for coming on and sharing this story, this powerful story and message and everything that you have learned through your own personal hardships and working through the pain and the loss of your late husband. It's very inspirational, and I wish you all of the best on your continued journey in this crazy world we call life. All right, well, listen, I am just getting back from Arkansas. I was up there taking some pictures, mostly of the Ozark Gravel Doom, the first race that's been held on that route. I mostly went to take pictures and test out my fancy new camera, but knowing me, I'm always on the lookout for the next guest. And while I was en route taking pictures, I was waiting for Jacob Louse to pass me so I could get a few shots of him before the sun set on day 3. Or was it day 2? I don't know. It was nighttime. I didn't quite make it. He got to me right after the sunset. But it was interesting because I was media and he was en route, and he was, I believe, in second place at the time, riding a single speed, doing very well. But when he ran into me, he wasn't doing well. And for the 30 minutes prior to running into me, he had been contemplating whether or not he was going to continue the race. He had already talked to the race director. He had talked to his partner, his wife, and it was just it was an interesting and a timely interaction based on the current, overall topic of media and coverage of these types of bikepacking races. So that will not be the main topic of next week's episode, but it just happens that I was on course. It happens that we had that interaction. By all accounts, I talked to Andrew Honorma. I've talked to Jacob. I've talked to myself about it. We all feel good about the way everything was handled. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit on next week's episode, but mostly we just want to hear Jacob's story. He trained his ass off, and what I'm super interested in hearing is how, he went from, I am pulling the plug, I am walking away, I am calling it a day, I've had enough, to finishing the Doom route. But not only just finishing, he completed it in second place overall, and in doing so set a new single speed FKT. I don't know about you, but for me, I want to hear what happened, what went through his mind, and how he processed all of that. And that is next week's episode. Thanks again for being here. If you like what you hear, don't be shy to sign up to support these episodes over at patreon.com/bikesfordeath. And lest you forget, it's now time to go ride your damn bike.
It was the middle of the night. You grabbed your knife and you held it tight. The sounds of beasts kept you awake. The sounds they made kept you afraid. In the morning, you packed your bike. Memories forgotten from the previous night. You rode faster than ever before. Was it your imagination or merely folklore? Fear turned into strength as you pushed further. Every pedal stroke stronger and firmer. Your bike feels weightless, your legs aren't tired. You think to yourself, just a few more miles. Bikes, oh death. Bikes, oh death.